Please pardon my less than formal surroundings. I'm at a primary school medieval fair, and after I do this, I'm going to be watching children jousting with pool noodles and all sorts of fun stuff. So,
What a better backdrop for an interview with the guy from They Might Be Giants. Have you seen this video? There's a video that's going around on like TikTok and Instagram of a guy he's at some like court deposition kind of thing. He's in front of a judge, but he's doing it on Zoom and he's driving, and the judge is like, "Are you driving?" He's like, "No, I'm not driving." And he's like, the background, he's clearly driving. And then the judge is like, "You're here because your license has been revoked." It's really it's a total shocker. But all those kinds of videos, all the Karen videos, those things all show up on my feed, and I have to say, I find them endlessly entertaining.
the algorithm knows you well. Yeah.
My algorithm is like very sleazy that way.
Well, mate, perfect time for America, where it's
Yes,
just endless
yes.
chaos. Yeah. Mate, in I first knew, They Might Be Giants when I was growing up, when Dr. Worm was on the Australian Hottest 100, and
Yeah. The thing that's wild is like we should have just like Dr. Worm was like it was like Sex Farm being a hit in Japan. Like we should have come back to Australia and worked that because we were unaware of how much play that song got. That got a ton of radio play, and it was like, wow, nobody even told us. Like that's about as close as we've had to having like a chart hit, besides like spending a month in the charts with Birdhouse in Your Soul in London, in England. That was like a huge deal. It appears. So yeah, that was great.
it reminds me a bit, because the presidents were around, were big around the same time, and you were both singing very accessible, very friendly sounding songs. Some of which involving anthropomorphic animals.
Oh yeah, I remember those guys. We did a show. We did a show with them right when they were first starting, and yeah, they had they had no string. They had taken half the strings off of all their instruments. It was really interesting. It was like kind of what the B-52s guy did. It was cool.
And you both ended up doing children's albums.
Oh,
Um,
they did? I
yeah,
didn't realize.
the main dude had a very successful run, calling himself Caspar Baby Pants, and
Oh
yeah,
wow.
music for toddlers, man. Get
Yeah, it's funny. The thing that's confusing is we should have given ourselves a different name. I think that was probably a tactical error because probably a lot of people, well, still to this day, a lot of people think we're doing like all ages shows, and somebody sneak even when the shows are officially like 18 and up, like somebody will slip their kid in and they'll be like, I can't believe it, it was midnight and they were swearing and like my kid was shocked, and you're just like, you're the worst parent in the world. It's like, don't bring your kids to rock clubs. But what can you do? It's like it's very easy to kind of misunderstand when, I mean, we aren't trying to put up mixed signals, but I think at a certain point you got to realize like maybe that's kind of a mixed signal. Who knows?
Now, where I was going with that was that I looked at your earlier, the early history of the band, and you guys have had a really good approach to like innovative ways of getting your music out there. I mean, you had the was it dial a song? Yeah,
Dial a song. Dial a
yeah,
song.
using answering machines, and the one that really got my attention was that I believe you guys were the first people to ever put out an entire album via MP3 right before, right as Napster was coming up, and little did we know the music industry was about to fall on its ass.
Oh, well, there was a good couple of years of like .com stuff that where like that was a very beautiful moment. Yeah, I mean, listen, everything changes. My first job was in a record store, like selling 8 tracks. And I don't know where those 8 tracks are now, but it's things are always changing. So I think that's just the nature of the music business. In some ways, I feel like music is actually kind of in the ascent right now, and there's a lot of reasons to think that. But I think things are going to be getting better.
It's funny, I was born in '85, so when I first saw an 8-track as a kid, I thought it was a games console, a games cartridge.
Oh, right. Sure. Yeah. Why not?
I was like, Neil Diamond, he made a video game.
Hey, I'd play that game.
Do you remember though when it came to putting out that album, did you get much pushback from other bands, like at all?
No, I think a lot of people were curious about it. Part of it was just figuring out how there was a lot of emerging technology, I guess was the thing. Like there was a thing called real audio that was trying to kind of corner the market on music streaming. It was really about kind of just finding a format that was truly flexible and portable and didn't sound like crap and didn't require like installing something that takes 12 hours to put into your computer. So it was like, it was a very fast moving time. And it was just an interesting part of it is like, for me and John, we just approach this stuff in a kind of an open-ended way. Like it's some things work, some things don't, some things are more fun than others. But it's like, if you're just open to whatever the next thing is, it'll probably be an interesting experience. And I'll tell you the one thing we didn't do, we never bothered with CD ROMs, which just seemed like so hard. And it was really unclear what value it was bringing to any part of your experience. Like, unless you really love, what are those things called? Like, if you love like searching around for what people always talk about Taylor Swift being really into these things. What is the term? I'm having Easter eggs. Yeah. Like CD-ROMs was the ultimate Easter egg experience. Like, so it was basically like a format of Easter eggs. And, but I don't know. I've never liked Easter eggs.
Let's see if you can predict this next question with another question. What does They Might Be Giants and Slayer have in common?
Wow, I know nothing about Slayer. I think Slayer is Slayer the other T-shirt in Beavis and Butthead?
They weren't. No, I believe that was AC/DC and I believe Megadeth. But
no. I think isn't Slayer kind of? I think I remember hearing Matt Judge saying something like Slayer was the opposite of AC/DC. Like they were kind of like. I'm going to look up a picture of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
That like they were kind of like a hair. They're pretty much a hair metal band, right?
No, they were thrash. They were very.
Oh, they were evil.
Yes, very. Now, since I know you won't be going with it, I'll tell you. You and Slayer both had the dubious honor of releasing an album on September 11, 2001. And there were lots of okay. Well, carry finish your what you were going to say. And fortunately for you, you didn't do what Slayer did and release on 9/11 an album called "God Hates Us All."
Wow. Well, it was like they were prophets. But well, it was a big release day. It was like basically. The 1st September is usually like a big release day. There's only 2 release days a month or were. That's what it was back then. So that's when they gave it out. So it makes sense that they released a record. But who also released a really big record, and it really I think it I think it really put a downspin on their career that day was REM. REM put out their last, their last full commercial push. Like the album had like a very, very expensive video. It was very poppy, and it was definitely like designed to be on the radio. And it just everything that happened then just was like killed. And I think it kind of drew the curtain on their career a little bit, which was really terrible. We were, speaking of, we're doing these shows we're doing in Australia are rescheduled. And I was just talking to another interviewer about, canceling shows. Like up until COVID, we had never, like, you could count the number of shows we had canceled on one hand, like, and we'd done 1,000 shows. You just never, the show always went on. Like, you never thought about rescheduling, even if we were like all sick or, it just didn't matter. It's just like, we're doing the show. But what's weird is like after 9/11, we had a whole national tour booked, and we just did it. We canceled. One show got canceled. We were supposed to fly to a sold out show in Boise, Idaho. That show got rescheduled or canceled or whatever. And we drove out to San Francisco to just start the tour. And we drove for 3 days straight to get to the other side of the country. And then when we got to this sold out show in San Francisco, only half the audience showed up.
Yeah.
Because everybody was so freaked out. We're playing at like some beautiful theater or the Fillmore or something, and it's like half full. It's like, really? Like, people aren't going to come out? People are that freaked out, that scared? I guess the truth is, like, we weren't really, everybody's different. Like, we didn't have any gauge on it. It was like, oh, wow, it was really crazy. But it seemed kind of, I don't know. Finite. It seemed, it didn't. The planes didn't land on us. It's like, and it seemed like it was over right after it started. So I don't know. But a lot of people were just like, I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So we played for a lot of sold out but half empty audiences.
How would you describe the musical landscape when you released Flood in 1990?
Well, it's interesting because it was really the very end of a very long, I think, a very long set of kind of, there was a lot of common wisdom that was built up from the 70s to the early 90s that just made the record business what it was. And it was very top down. There was a tremendous amount of cultural gatekeeping. Everything, even on a local level, there were city papers like the Village Voice, but there were papers like the Village Voice everywhere in the United States. If you were a local band, kind of the gateway to your success was like through a rock critic at that paper, through people who ran the clubs in that town. And then, there really wasn't there were very few independent labels. There was no way to be an independent artist and have a national, there was no way to be a national act as an independent artist at that point. It was all very much, it was the major labels running the show, and they had a lock on television, they had a lock on the radio. The radio was super important. Everything was culturally gate-kept, and that was really kind of blown up by grunge, because grunge took the DIY model of like college rock and alternative rock and then turned it into a musical movement that had its own kind of rules and its own aesthetic. And most of the bands that we came up with, they were all quite different from one another. There were lots of hard bands, and there were other bands that were essentially like, pop bands. Like Husker Du our booking agent booked Husker Du and booked 10,000 Maniacs, and they're very different acts, like on a fundamental level, like philosophically, they're just like kind of opposites. But they were all seen as alternative rock. And alternative rock was, because rock was Rod Stewart and Madonna, like all the people of in the 70s, none of them were giving up any bit of their market share in the 80s. Like, it's not like the Rolling Stones said, like, oh, we've decided we're old and in the way. Like, they were like, no, we're going to be playing at the stadium. And, we would like to be on the cover of Rolling Stone forever. It's like those acts were really dominating until the early 90s. And I think I was very happy to see grunge just kind of push all that stuff out of the way. It was kind of great.
It was a crazy time to think before, Clear Channel went and bought all the radio stations and, invented the modern boy band. That the early 90s, you had spring break teenagers dancing to Primus.
Right. Well,
imagine.
But there were other. I guess the real antecedent, the thing that kind of foamed the runway for the grunge and post-grunge era, which was much more wide open, was in a way was really MTV. MTV could have gone boy band right away. Like there was New Edition and New Kids on the Block, and the boy band thing was an idea that was popular in 1985, but MTV kept it at arm's length the whole time for like a half dozen years. Like, they just were like, that's not what we're doing. Like, we're going to play these obtuse weirdo English bands. Maybe they're perceived as teeny bop acts in the UK, but they certainly weren't perceived as teeny bop acts in the United States. Like, the Smiths were an art project as far as I was concerned. They didn't seem like they weren't for like teenage girls. They were like just, they seemed psychologically disturbed to me, I mean, I love this. Don't get me wrong. I love this.
Not for teenagers. They're for cigarette smoking goths.
Exactly.
Now, before we were talking about, I realized I forgot to ask the second half of the question. When we were talking about innovative ways of, that you guys managed to get your sound out there, I wonder, what advice would you maybe give to people who are struggling to get their voice, their musical voice heard in?
Well, I'm not sure how much of it my advice would be transferable, because, as I said, like, we were coming up in a time when there were so many, part for us, like, we weren't looking to figure out, we weren't trying to brand ourselves or say, like, we had nothing to lose. So we were just, we were just doing whatever, we were doing the only things we could do. And, I mean, I have to tell you, as interesting a story as the Dial-A-Song story is, it was like kryptonite to record labels. Like, all record labels wanted acts that had no history because they felt their job was grooming acts. Like, they felt like they were the ones who could best kind of contour the rough edges of a talented act and turn it into something that would have a much bigger mainstream appeal. And I'm not even saying that they were wrong, but they definitely felt like that was their job. So anything you had done before you were signed, anything you'd done to become notorious in your hometown, that was just kind of a pain in the ass to them. It was just like, what, don't try to do our job. Like, just write some hit songs and we'll talk about it on the other side of that. Well, that was really that was their bag.
I feel like to interview you guys, it feels like almost doing a disservice to you because you've got such a long career. But obviously, a big part of a lot of people's exposure to you was Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I apologize if you get asked about this in every interview.
Oh, not actually, not at all. Sometimes it's news to people that we did the song for Malcolm in the Middle.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's
well, that's your question.
It's just that show is an enormous favorite in our house. We absolutely love it to bits, and I resonated. It resonated with me a lot because when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money, and what I liked about Malcolm in the Middle is they were visibly poor. So their
Oh, right,
house
right.
looked like my house, Um, and I wonder, like, what kind of impact did that have on They Might Be Giants? And yeah,
Well, it was the beginning of what was really kind of a fantastic second act for us because we had been on a major label and for 10 years basically, and it was we had a very positive experience. We had a lot. There were a lot of highs while we were on the major label, but a lot of things happened like hip hop and new metal started dominating the charts in the late '90s, and the label just couldn't figure out where we were going to fit into this world, and all the people that we started with at the label were gone, and then it just kind of wound down to like, in a way, like I would love to have had like big fights with the major label. It's like, no, we don't believe in this, and it's spiritually not where we're at, and but it was actually so dull. Like by the time we left, it was just like, it was almost like, wouldn't you guys rather leave? And it's like, yeah, I guess we would. It was the opposite of dramatic or exciting. But as soon as we were off the label, all of a sudden we were answering our own phones, and all these offers came over the transom, and it was like, we got an offer to do a theme for a TV show. It's like, yeah, we'll do a TV show theme, sure. I have no idea what happened when they called Elektra and said, like, we'd like They Might Be Giants to do a theme song. Although I'm suspicious that they'd be like, wouldn't you rather have somebody else do it? Like they would like pass it on to another act. I don't know. I have no idea. But I feel like the second we were free from that deal, everything changed. And I mean, it was literally like we were doing songs for the Austin Powers movie. We were doing a song for Malcolm in the Middle. We did the theme for The Daily Show, all in the matter of like 2 years. It was just a total turnaround. Like everything changed, and so it was like it was just a really exciting time. And we did incidental music for that show for a couple of years, and that was John had a kid, and that was a really nice way to be able to like stay off the road for a while because we could afford to just be at home and do this TV show thing. And it was a very interesting gig. It was I think we were kind of bad at it, but we gave it the old college try. It was really hard work. Like doing incidental music is that's a tough gig.
The tour for the Australian tour is selling very well. How has how has Australia received the band over the years, and what kind of messaging did did the selling of this tour kind of give you about your continuing fan base in this country?
Well, I mean, years ago we did these flood shows in Australia as a way to kind of add a second night because our early Australian tours were so fast. We were just trying to figure out a way that we could add shows to a tour and just kind of slow things down. And that's really kind of where the idea originated to do flood shows. And it sort of emerged that there was people like going to see They Might Be Giants live, but to some people, seeing They Might Be Giants performing Flood, that's what you want to see. That's the main event. And so, we respect that. It's an interesting thing. It's like, people love that album, and it's very, very important to people in our audience. But it's a challenge to do such a large amount of to play 40 minutes of a show that's just set every night. We actually just got off the road in the U.S. doing a completely different show, so it'll be interesting going back to it. It won't be hard, but I'll tell you the thing that's great about doing all these sold out shows is that it's afforded us the ability to add 3 horn players, and so it's an 8-piece band, And my God, these guys are so good. And the material we get to do with them is so exciting, and it's just so much fun. It's just like having a Saturn V rocket lashed onto the back of your band. It's like a whole other set level of energy. It's a whole other sound. There's all these improvisational things that happen that are just like fantastic, and they're different every night. And it's a great hang. Everything about the show and the experience for us has just become fantastic.
Unreal. John, that sounds awesome. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in Brisbane. So yeah,
Oh yeah, it's going to be
yeah.
great.
Thank you very much for your time. And
Oh well, thank you.
no worries, my
Well,
friend.
good luck and enjoy the medieval jousting. I hope nobody gets hurt. I hope they're wearing some eye protection.
We'll see. We go hard.
I don't want those kids.
See you.
Okay, I know. You've got a reputation. I'll see you later.